Hi, I'm Jarratt Davis, and the reason for this video is to talk to you about a really exciting investment concept that we're working on inside the ASAC fund. Now, one of the main reasons I actually moved my investment business over to a hedge fund structure was to have more flexibility in the type of investments that I make. So it's like rather than just being limited to only trading FX, which is basically what my career has been built on. Now, if you've been following my blog and the YouTube channel for a while, you'll know that I strongly recommend operating without leverage while aiming for kind of consistent returns of 1 to 2% per month. However, even in the world of FX, we do get occasional opportunities where you can generate gains of 30 to 50% during a year. Now, I'm just trying to think of an example you might remember. One that springs to mind was when the Bank of Japan implemented its own quantitative easing program back in 2013. And then there are those opportunities that kind of come along maybe once or twice in a generation. And the latest example I can kind of think of that was the internet age, right? So imagine buying Google, Apple, Amazon way back at that time in the late 90s. And this is why cryptocurrencies and specifically blockchain technology has captured our collective imagination here at the fund, because I believe that this new technology has the potential to completely revolutionize the modern world in exactly the same way the internet did all those years ago. And the most exciting part is that we are literally only just at the beginning, right? So the potential for growth and profit is virtually unlimited. Now, if you're not quite sure what blockchain is, then one simple way to describe it would be as a technology that eliminates the need for the middleman, okay? And to get an idea of how this can literally change the world, let's imagine the impact it could have on the banking industry. Now, it seriously has the potential to impact banking in the same way that the internet impacted media. And if we just think about that for a second, like we understand that the internet completely changed the world of media and information forever, right? Now, within the banking industry, blockchain technology can slash the costs associated with transactions while also speeding each transaction up significantly. So if a bank can spend less money, then it will, right? That's a basic fact of business. And right now, the banking industry is being hit by several things that are severely hampering its profit margins, right? So the first thing that I can think of is it's dealing with an ever-changing and ever-tightening regulatory environment. And I can tell you from my experience working inside a financially regulated environment for many years that the regulatory burden is literally making it harder and harder to do business every year, right? It's getting worse and worse. The second thing affecting banks right now is the historically low interest rates. Now, even though we have a couple of central banks around the world increasing rates, the averages are still ridiculously low. And of course, the lower the rates, the lower the bank's ability to generate a healthy profit margin. And finally, there is a large-scale movement of digital disruption going on all over the world, right? So technology is changing at a lightning quick pace and the banks are just struggling to keep up. Now, when you consider like these three things all happening at the same time, and then consider how generally slow the banking industry is to adapt and evolve its kind of core processes and systems, because the nature of the banking system, for them, it's extremely hard and expensive to make these large-scale systematic changes effectively, right? In fact, each year, it's estimated that businesses around the world send and receive around $200 trillion worth of payments across different national borders, right? Now, the transaction fees average out at around, well, just under 10%, and the delay is generally one to 3 business days for those transactions. So that is a huge amount of money and a huge amount of time on a global scale. On top of all of this, it's also estimated that financial institutions like banks, etc., currently spend around $350 million per year just to keep on top of their regulatory requirements. Now imagine if all those transactions were carried out almost instantly and with virtually none of the fees that apply currently, right? The banks that adopt this technology first and the best will very quickly attract all the business, right? Because the fees will be reduced. Now, blockchain could also completely remove all of that current burden of due diligence and authentication. So like, imagine never having to fill out pages and pages of forms and submit your proof of ID and proof of address over and over again, ever again. Imagine if all of that was done instantly and automatically. And that's just one tiny way in which blockchain technology can completely change things. Now, to further illustrate how exciting this is just for the banking industry, there was an experiment recently in 2016. The companies SAP, ATB Financial, and the new cryptocurrency Ripple got together to send the first ever international blockchain payment in 2016. I think it was the middle of 2016. Now, the payment was sent from Alberta, Canada, to Risebank in Germany, and it was about 1,000 Canadian dollars. And using normal banking facilities would have taken around 3 business days to transact fully. The test transaction occurred in just 20 seconds. And since then, the time for that transaction has actually been halved to 10 seconds. And to finally clarify just how serious the biggest banks are taking this technology, over 40 of the world's biggest banks, and that includes Goldman Sachs, Citibank, Bank of America, have all initiated investments into blockchain technology. So to get a feel for the broad nature of blockchain's potential impact, we can look at how it could completely change a different industry. We'll look at the legal industry, right? So just like in banking, blockchain has the potential to completely revolutionize the way that legal processes are carried out. And again, the main benefits are in the speed and the cost savings. So to illustrate this, we can look at the concept called smart contracts, okay? Now, these are automatically verified agreements that are enacted without any human intervention. So, for example, if some service isn't delivered, then the customer doesn't pay. Or if something occurs outside of the contractual terms, then payments, penalties, suspensions, they're all automatically triggered and executed. So imagine being able to do a deal, to purchase something or enter into an agreement without the need for expensive lawyers to spend hundreds of hours verifying every line of the contract. Imagine having proof of ownership instantly available that is impossible to falsify, right? And that also leads on to intellectual property, because the blockchain royalties from songs, so on the blockchain, those royalties from songs could be coded into the blockchain, so to speak, to make sure that the artist behind that kind of piece of content is paid directly and instantly, which means no need for middlemen platforms like Spotify or iTunes, right? Imagine that. Another example of this is with your own personal data. So right now, companies will pay Facebook or Google to access your data. This lets them show you ads for things that you might be interested in buying. But with blockchain, you could actually control your own data and sell it to those companies directly without the need of the middlemen of Facebook and Google taking their cut. So in fact, it isn't just banking and the legal industries that can be changed forever. Virtually any industry that relies on the collection and verification of data in any form can apply blockchain technology and completely revolutionize what they do. And the basic end result is that you need less middlemen, which of course dramatically reduces costs and makes the entire process much more user-friendly. Now, the coolest thing to consider is the fact that we are right at the dawn of this technology. This truly is a once-in-a-generation opportunity, right? And the reason that this is so exciting is the possible gains that can be legitimately made without the usual risk. I'm talking about making 30, 50, even 100 times your money through crypto investing, and we've already seen this kind of return in recent months. Now, when the dot-com bubble was taking off in the late 90s, I wasn't even an adult, right? I was at school. I didn't even really understand what investing was at that time, and I certainly didn't have any experience to prepare me for exploiting all the opportunities that came along with the kind of dawn of the internet. Now, fast forward 20 years, and we now have another technological revolution that could be even more powerful than the internet. But this time, I am prepared. I've got well over a decade of professional investing experience behind me. And I can honestly say that this is the first time in my adult life that there is a credible opportunity to turn $100 into tens of thousands of dollars over a very short time frame, right? Now, this opportunity has got us all pretty excited because we believe strongly in the underlying fundamentals and want to build a robust strategy for capturing some of these extremely large returns. Now, one of the concerns a lot of people have right now is that the price of Bitcoin, okay, a famous cryptocurrency, and lots of other coins, has recently crashed, right? You might be wondering whether that means it's a bubble or if the party's over before it even got started. And I think to help with this, we kind of need to understand the reason for that crash, right? So in my view, the reason Bitcoin crashed is simply because people started viewing it as a speculative investment opportunity, right? So it's something that would just always skyrocket upwards no matter what. Now, the reality is that Bitcoin, it isn't that. It's simply a medium of exchange, right? So Bitcoin has a utility, and that utility is totally unrelated to the price of it pushing higher and higher with no limit, okay? It's only when people stopped seeing Bitcoin for what it actually was and instead saw it for what they wanted it to be, effectively, did that massive rally and sell-off occur. Now, another objection people have is that it's just too complicated to invest in a new technology like Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. And I get this because, you know, as the old saying goes, anything is easy once you know how, right? And the reality is, after some initial learning, it really is as simple as using a debit card to sign up to one of the many exchanges to get involved with crypto investing. Now, you might also be wondering whether it's really possible to make 10 times your money or more, because there is a lot of hype out there, right? You've probably noticed that as well. But to really understand why this is so powerful, we need to think of it like the radical paradigm shift that it is, right? It's not simply some new asset like a fund or a stock. It's literally a brand new technology that has thousands, probably tens of thousands of real world applications and could potentially save trillions of dollars globally in costs, right? It's literally this magnitude of change that will drive the values higher and higher exponentially. And of course, if you followed me for any length of time, you'll know that I'm the first one to be highly skeptical of anything promising ridiculously high returns. But when we're talking about a revolution that will take us from the information age into the age of value, these kind of returns are genuinely possible kind of in this environment at this time. In fact, the internet is a perfect example of how huge gains could have been had if you're prepared and looking for companies that added genuine value to the world back in that time, right? So if this is making sense to you, then I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. You know, what possible new breakthroughs are you excited about? Maybe what, you know, any coins that have caught your attention lately, type it in because I genuinely would love to see what you guys are thinking as well. Now, in the next video, we're going to be looking at how you can actually analyze these crypto assets to spot the ones that are ready to boom, right? The ones that you've got the highest potential for making a good return. And we're going to look at two top tips, okay? Top tip for analyzing the fundamentals of a crypto, and then a professional tip for actually entering the market and getting into an investment. When you mix these two things together, you're going to have a very powerful formula for making your money grow. So I hope this has been helpful. Please, again, share your own thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.